Ooh, I got that out. Sorry. Crap, colors we're using for today. Are you ready? Sorry.
Go.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. You guys all know what time it is. It is time for art. My name is Hershey Petty. I'm your host. Today is Wednesday. So as you guys know, it is a paint day. It's one of my favorite days. We're going to be painting this guy. If you haven't already got him out of your box, out of your kit, you go ahead, get ready for that one. But before we say hi to Allison, as always, I'd love to remind you guys to please like, share, tag, follow, subscribe, do all the things you can do on our social media platforms. We are Time for Subscriptions on YouTube, and on all the other ones, we are Time for Art subscriptions. So you can find us, find our subscriber group that way on Facebook. So join our Facebook community and our subscriber group, invite your friends, whatever you need to do. I'm going to be posting all the links to our social media in the comments, and it'll also be have in there the friends and family 20% off discount link. So don't forget to click on that and invite your friends. Today, we're doing so many cool things before we even get to the painting. We've got a template challenge coming up, something very exciting for you guys to do. We've got, we're gonna learn some quick color mixing, and we're also gonna learn some stroke practice. So it's gonna be really informative. Now let's say hello to our resident artist, Allison Crary. Hi, Allison.
Hey, Hershey. Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. You're all back home. Yeah, I am back in Chicago. Hershey's back in Tucson. And which is a very appropriate place to paint cacti, which is what we're doing today. And so today we're going to talk, we're going to get to our painting, and we have our video that we stream where we take questions the whole time, and we'll do a little bit of kind of prep work and you know, kind of a warm up to that. But the template challenge is something we are super excited about. So if you are not yet a member of the Time for Art subscriber Facebook group, please join it. And we would like to use either these signs, or Hershey's got the other sign. Here
you go. I'm holding it up. It's the one that says Gas Haven on it.
Last stop for 200 miles. And so we would like to see everybody, if they can, or if, you know, if you'd like to, do a sketchbook journal entry using this template, any of them, any of the signs, and see what you come up with. You can use the other templates too, but get your templates out, use one of these, post it to the subscriber group. And on Wednesday, so you have until Wednesday morning, we'll take a look at them that day, and we will call out one that we really appreciate, and there will be a prize of some kind. And so, yeah, and so we just want to see what everybody does with it. We think this is a really fun one, and you don't have to use your paints. You can use anything you've got, but we think the signs are kind of a fun one. And
they can do it right in their journals, right?
Please do it right in your journal. Definitely. That's exactly where it should go. Use all of the colors, use none of the colors, use your pencil, anything you want. So that's that. So
nice.
Moving
what's the giveaway? Are we gonna, is that gonna be a surprise? Are we gonna
It's gonna be a surprise. Yes.
All right.
It's gonna be a surprise. So the motel one, the Colorado River one, or the Gas Haven one. We'd like you to use those. So today we're painting the flowering cactus, and we practiced drawing this, so everybody's super familiar. And so if you'd like to draw it, you certainly can, but if not, you have the outline that's provided. And so I'm a little close up here. There we go. That's a little better. And so what you're going to do in the video is it's going to ask you to go ahead and hinge your outline to the front of your canvas, and you can use the labels we provide, or you can use tape. I'm just going to show you with tape. And you are going to tape both sides of your outline to the canvas panel. hinge it over the edge, and now your outline is in place to be transferred. You are going to tuck your graphite paper in between, sticky, shiny side down, in between your outline and your canvas panel. And then you are going to apply pressure with a pencil or a pen along these lines to transfer the image onto the canvas panel. And you will get the image on your canvas panel. So that's how that works. So, and that will, the video will prompt you. What's that, Hershey?
Sorry. Also, that's what you guys will use to put your when you guys are doing the template challenge.
Exactly the same. Exactly the same process. And we did that earlier this month. But if you forgot, same thing. And we actually make this translucent. So if you're positioning it on top of something else, you can move it around and drop it wherever you'd like. This not as necessary because we're transferring the whole thing. Going from there. So that's how that works. I am going to do a quick color mixing demonstration. All of this is prompted in the video. And the other thing about the video, and even if you're watching it live, you can pause it. We encourage you to pause it. We will be available for questions the whole time while it's going live, but we try to put together these really organized, informed videos so that everyone can take their time and work at their own pace and not feel rushed. And the way the video is set up, we actually drop a pause icon so that you can, we show you the step, we talk through it, we do it, and then we say this is a good place to pause so you can go, and if you even need to go back a little bit, you can do that too, but it takes you through the whole step if you want to wait that way. So you've got that. You also have your reference that we provide just like this. And this particular painting is all sort of based on the complementary color scheme of red and green. And this particular red and green is kind of an orangey red and kind of a blue green. And those
can't. Is that the vermilion or the crimson?
This is the vermilion, not the crimson.
Okay.
And so the vermilion mixed equal parts with the crimson, and remember, not all paint is created equal, makes this, still a little warm, really beautiful neutral.
And neutral is like a closer shade of black, right?
Well, so we can get as close as, theoretically, if you mix these two colors together, if the paint were perfect, but pigments make the paint, binders,
sure,
different elements sometimes if you're working with different kinds of paints. And so it doesn't, the way color works in theory is not necessarily how color works when you mix two different paints together, but we get pretty close. And this is one version of a really natural black. And so that's pretty good. So that's what we're working with here. That serves as our background color. And actually we add a little bit of white to that. So if we add a little bit of white to this, this is this really neutral background color. And it's something you'll see in a lot of sometimes desert photography or desert painting or kind of stylized desert representation is this kind of sun-soaked faded patina that's part of the image and part of the photography. And so how to get that, and we don't necessarily want to work with really brilliant colors, we want to kind of temper our colors, is you add some of this to your reds and your greens and everything else. And that's how we get these kind of neutral, more rust tones.
Oh, so you make the complementary color first, and then when you add it back to the original color,
yeah, it sort of changes the posture of the color. Then we can add white, and you get this kind of eucalyptus green that's really fun.
Yep.
Thing here.
You had said something when we were color mixing. I can't remember when, but you had mentioned how in order to tie this green in with the blue and the yellow, what you said we could use green, but then this green won't have any of the blue and yellow in it.
So when we do, that's right. So when we do our next painting, the landscape, that is completely based on that idea. That color scheme is really tight, even though it's got a lot of we do so much color mixing in that one. But the whole thing really holds together nicely because we're only using 3 tubes of paint. So if you compare, I'm just going to take some of the green with the white. That's how different these colors look. So this is going to be not with the neutral added. And this is with the neutral added. So a trick like that, where you add the colors complement to dull it or darken it, is a very natural way to achieve this kind of sun-soaked faded motif. Nice. Then everyone knows how I feel about the title Flesh Tint. I don't care for it, but is what it is. It's pink. And so we have pink. And this is actually the way this particular pink was made. It's probably made more from like a crimson tone. It's a little bit of a cooler red. It looks a little bit icier. It's got a little bit more blue tone to it. And when you add a little bit of this neutral color, kind of the same thing. We get a little bit of an earthier version.
Right.
Of that. Just like that.
I never, my mind feels a little blown right now because I never envisioned mixing a color so that I could use it to mix a color.
And we're going to do it over and over and over again. So recalibrate your expectations with color mixing. So yeah. And even when I work digitally, sometimes I will like mix something and then like eyedropper that color to add because you can't digitally work this way really. And so you can if you kind of circumvent it. And I like to do that. So these are this is the color scheme we're going to work with. And just a little bit of stroke practice. This is kind of a wet on wet technique where I want to mix these two together. We get this nice and wet. We get kind of this tone, nice and wet. And we blend them together. That's how that goes. A glazing technique, I don't know how much of that we're going to do in this one, but if you wait till one of these dries, I can show you that. And then a good way to just practice painting, even if you do it every day with leftover paint from your journals and stuff like that, is it's always easier to pull a line than it is to push a line. And so if you need to make a line, you can work with like the tip of your brush. You can use your whole brush for a heavier line weight. And if you want to go around an edge, so let's say this is a circle I want to paint in. A good way to paint in this circle. Actually, I'm going to show you 2 different ways.
Okay.
To paint in a circle. So one way is to start from the middle and kind of push out to the edge. And then kind of get your line going and follow the edge around as I pull a line around the edge. The other good way to do it is to start with the perimeter. Get the line you want.
And then you can kind of like go a little crazy, right, on the inside?
Yeah. and fill it in.
Yeah.
So depending on what you're doing and kind of it's very instinctive. I'd say smaller situations, I usually like to do this method where you kind of get up to the edge and then you figure it out. In bigger situations, I usually do that, but really it's whatever feels right at the time.
It feels like one of the ways I might choose would be depending on what that color is coming up next to. Like if it's going to come up to wet paint that's a significantly different color, I might go from the middle out.
Yeah, and kind of and use that minute to let it dry a little more. That's a really good point, Hershey. I love that. So, and then to make something more opaque, what you're going to want to do is add some white. So if this is our red on its own, and it'll change the color and the value. Here. And we go to cover up this line with red, we see right through it, right?
Yeah.
If we add some white to that red, and we have a really heavy body opaque white.
A covering white.
We are going to cover that line a lot faster than like that. And you can see through it, but especially if we let that dry once and cover it again, this is going to cover a lot faster than that is.
Yep.
And then a glazing technique, and let me see if I've got it dry enough. That's dry enough. Is okay, I have this really great, I've got this filled in and it's one color and I really like it. I'm going to come in, I'm going to kind of water down my green, and I'm going to put a glaze of my green over that green. And you layer these kind of glassy, translucent layers.
Sorry.
To model something. So that's an example of a glazing technique.
All right, looks great.
All right, so I think it's time to paint. We are going to show our video. This video has been edited to about 26, 27 minutes. And initially we thought that would make things really convenient and easy, and you can pause where you want and take all your time. We are getting some feedback that actually isn't preferred.
Right.
But actually, it's frustrating that we speed it up and that everyone would just prefer the hour or so. Some of them are less than an hour, some of them are more than an hour, to paint just in real time, and speeding it up only is making it
so
more
you're
difficult.
saying that you can do the video either way. You can do it at a regular speed or a fast speed, and you want to know from the community what they think is better.
Exactly. And so we're going to, for this month, we have the edited videos cut to 27 minutes. In March, we're just going to leave them in real time, and we're going to see how everybody feels about them.
Okay. All right.
And so interested in your feedback, just pay attention to the idea that it's, we're going to change it, and we're interested in how everybody feels about it. So,
right. So this month we're going to do the speeded up version. Next month on one of our paint days, we'll do the regular version, and we'll get everybody's opinion.
Exactly.
Awesome. That's awesome. And the one more time, just want to remind you guys, Allison and I are going to stay here while this video plays. You won't be able to see or hear us, but we're going to stay right here. So
and answer
in the comments, I'm sorry. Yeah. So we're going to be, we'll be answering your questions or your comments or any feedback you have for us. I'll be monitoring the comment section and relaying those to Allison and responding in time. And I also want to say hello to everyone. Just, you know, I meant to do this at the beginning, Allison, and I wanted to say hi to all those people that are back here again for another paint day. It's always so great to see you guys in the comment section, but unfortunately, not until the end will I have any idea who's out there. So if you do want to just say hi or something like that, drop a note in the comment section. I'd love to say hi back. And maybe if I don't, I'll say hi this time. Sometimes I just like it or whatever, but I do want you to know that it is, I love seeing you guys there, and Allison loves it too. So say hi if you want to. And yeah. Oh, and then and you can pause, right, Allison, if they decide to go to the YouTube link, which I'm going to put in the
pause
section.
the live. Pause it live. It's not going anywhere. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. Let me post that. I'm going to post that right now, Allison.
All right. So I'm going to start the video. You're going to not see our faces, but we are here and we are excited to take questions and comments.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Today we are painting the flowering cactus, and you want to make sure you have all your brushes out, your white paint, your outline. The colors are vermilion, green deep, flesh tint, and white. And go ahead and get started with your outline. Get that hinge to the top of your canvas panel. Get ready to transfer. And these videos are always set up so that you can watch the step all the way through, and then a pause icon pops up and we suggest you pause and go back and do the step. Go ahead and pause. Tuck your transfer paper sticky side down, that's the graphite side, underneath your outline. And in this instance, just go ahead and transfer the outside lines of the forms. So that's the outside of the cactus. We're not worried about the pricklies just yet. The outside of some of the flowers and the buds. We're going for sort of the cookie cutter outer contours of the forms in the painting. And this particular painting is kind of two-dimensional in some parts and more rendered three-dimensionally in others. And that's kind of a more graphic approach maybe to painting botanicals. So I've got the outsides of the forms all in. Take out your transfer paper. There it is. Go ahead and pause. Get out your red, and you're gonna mix equal parts red and green, and this is kind of a double drop. And this is gonna be your background tones. So red and green are complements. It's gonna make this kind of fabulous eggplant color, and it's gonna become kind of a dusty, tint that we're gonna make as the basis for our background. So we're gonna add some white. Make sure you make enough of this because you're gonna need to paint your whole background in with it. I've got my biggest brush, and here we go. Some of that thick, rich, neutral. And very generously, I am painting in the background in this matte, even color. Remember, it's always easier to pull a line than it is to push a line. So you're gonna wanna pull that flat edge around some of the forms. You can take your time with this, but we're also gonna paint over it quite a bit. So any mistakes, or if you get into your forms, you can always let it dry and retransfer. No problem there. And as it dries, it's gonna dry more streaky. And so you're going to see some areas you wanna reinforce. So keep that in mind. Go ahead and pause, paint your background. Take a drop of that mixture. Put it in another well. Take a drop of green. It's kind of a double drop of green. We're gonna add a little more of our background tone to that mixture. And we're getting a touch of white. We're getting sort of a dusty, desaturated version of our green deep. And that's going to give us that sort of dusty desert look. And we're gonna paint in all the dark cactus shapes. And I'm kind of working from the outside in, if you can tell. So I'm getting a nice line on the outside and painting the inside. And kind of opposite for some of these smaller ones. I'm starting from the inside and working my way out to the outside, and it's whatever works best for you. But I'm using my big brush, generously applying paint. And some of that texture I'm gonna keep. Some of the streakiness, but if you want it to be flatter, you can always go in with a second coat. Kind of working my way around flower, off the page. And we're gonna go back in and fix some of these edges after this. So first pass, this is the plan. Get it all covered and in. Go ahead and pause, paint in your dark shapes. You're gonna take a touch of the background mixture and some white and not as much green. And you're gonna mix your lighter tone. And so it's this kind of desaturated mint color. We're gonna paint in all the light cactus shapes, just like we did the dark ones. Again, I'm making sure I hit that line on the outside first. On the bigger shapes. So the bigger shapes, I'm starting on the outside and working my way to the inside. And on the smaller shapes, I'm kind of doing the opposite. Starting on the inside and working my way to the outside. And it's whatever works for you. But I'm always very mindful of getting a clean edge. So right now we have a very geometric composition. And that's how this painting sets up. Go ahead and pause. And now we're just gonna kind of fix some of our edges. So you see some smaller areas or places you didn't quite hit the first time, go back in. I'm doing it on this shape right here, but go back in with the two colors you have mixed and clean up any edges or small areas you want. Go ahead and pause, touch up your edges. And now we're gonna dry this guy. You can walk away and pull out a hairdryer. And this might take a minute just because we put on a lot of paint. So, and you're gonna see we're getting some texture as we dry. Go ahead and pause, get your dryer out. And in this instance, some of the moisture and liquid pools on the edges, and we don't want that. So I'm taking a pass through with a paper towel and I'm gonna go back and dry some more. Go ahead and pause, finish up drying. And now we're going to retransfer the details. So we're gonna fold our outline back over. Should be nice and dry. Grab your graphite paper again, make sure it's sticky side down. And we're gonna transfer in with our pen all the areas we left out before. So all the little prickly dots, the insides of our flowers. Sometimes these prickly dots are really organized and sometimes they're a little more random. I thought that was really beautiful. We have some types of shapes in the background that you don't really see them. And I went ahead and hit the edges one more time because I really wanted to find that edge and reinforce it when I go to do that detail again. So I went ahead and transferred in all the edges. And you can take your time with this, but again, we're gonna be painting over all this. It doesn't have to be perfect. Catching all the little areas in the petal and in that center area. You see, we only see the center of one of these. So we're gonna take out our graphite paper and see what we get. And there are all your detail lines. Go ahead and pause, do your transfer. Grab your green. And just like we did for the background, we're gonna mix equal parts green and red. And I'm gonna refer to that as, because they're complementary colors and they neutralize each other, as kind of a complement base. And this is going to be how we darken our red in the future. We're not gonna lighten it in this instance. We're gonna leave it in its original state. And we're gonna take some of that, we're gonna drop that into 2 new wells. Grab your green, add that to 1 well. We're gonna mix that up. And then we're gonna mix that up with a substantial amount of white. So we're gonna darken our reds, we're gonna darken everything with it. And so that's gonna be this really fresh light green color. And this is what we're going to use to paint our details. I'm checking to make sure it's lighter than the green that's on there. And we're gonna paint in our dots and edges in our dark cactus shape. And so I don't want, because these are pricklies, I don't want them to be perfect circles at all. I want them to be irregular. And so we're painting in our irregular specks, prickles, needles into our cactus. We're gonna go back and paint the edges. But we're gonna hit all our dots at once. Something I've found is when you're doing something like this that you kind of want to be consistent, it's sort of in the flip of the wrist, you kind of want to paint them all at once, because if you go back in to do it, your strokes will just look just a little bit different. Your mark will just be a little bit different. You'll know where you started and where you stopped. So I like to, when I'm doing my dots or something kind of stylized like this, I like to hit all of my areas at once. So it looks like we're gonna hit some of our edges now. We're gonna start with some in the buds of the cactus flowers, around the edge of our cactus shapes. And this is stylized. This is not something that is as it appears in nature. So don't worry too much about it. The way your stroke looks is the way it should look. This painting's all about sort of geometry meeting realism. And so we've made our background shapes very geometric. And we're gonna hit this last one. Edges. Grab the edges around some of these background one. Gonna grab your flesh tint, which I call pink, and we're gonna mix that with some white and the complement mixture. And this is actually what we're going to use for our details on the lighter cactus shapes. So you're going to paint in the dots and the edges. And the reason I kind of chose the pink for this is because I really wanted it to stand out. And you can barely tell it's pink, but I didn't want to lose these on the light color on a light green. And pink and green are kind of complementary colors. And so this way they'll still really pop. It's kind of a color theory trick. And all your little dots. What's left of the edges. I'm just cleaning some of them up. Clean up yours and your painting. Go ahead and pause. Paint in your prickles and your edges. Grab your red, and we're just going to water this down, and then we're going to wash in our blossoms. So very loosely, in kind of a watercolor application, paint in right over the lines your flowers. And again, the important thing here is to cover all the little holes, but you don't want to go too dark because you need to see your lines all the way through. And I'm using obviously a smaller brush. It's whatever is easiest for you. So we give you 3 of them. Just working my way around. Go ahead and pause, wash in your flowers. Now, you're going to take some of your red and some of your white, and some of your pink and some of your white. And you're going to mix your pink and white and your red and white. And the red and white obviously is a pink, but it's more of a coral tone, and the pink is a lot cooler pink. And that's kind of what we're going to use here to build up these blossoms. So I'm going to start with the red and white mixture. And I am kind of with up and down vertical strokes, finding all of the light colored petal areas and putting them in with a thick layer of that paint. on top of what I washed in. And the red flowers. Go ahead and pause, paint in your petals. Now I'm going in and at the tops of the petals where it's lightest, I'm working in wet on wet some of the pink that we made with the pink paint on top. And we're getting this really nice kind of highlight. So where it's lightest on the petals, I'm painting in some of this pink tone and mixing it into the red and white, more coral tone we put down before. And I'm just kind of deciding where that needs to go. And we're gonna hit our highlights here in a little bit. So it doesn't have to be as light as it needs to be, but we're putting it in at that point. Go ahead and pause, paint in your light tones. You're gonna reach for your red, straight up red, and paint in your darkest areas. So anywhere where it's especially dark in your flowers, you're gonna take your detail brush and paint in some red. And if you notice, we are not drying these yet. We're kind of painting in wet on wet. And so we know the flower is wet in some areas and taking advantage of that and mixing in what we're putting in on top. So getting to our buds, all of the dark areas we're hitting with some straight up red. Go ahead and pause. We're gonna take some of our complementary mixture and some of our red mixture and mix that together. And it's a really natural way to darken our red. And our darkest areas, we're gonna paint this tone in. So these are our shadows. So really where our petals overlap, the deepest nooks and crannies. Go ahead and paint in your darks. And we're gonna mix up a little more of that tone. And keep going there. Painting in our darks, go ahead and pause. This was our pink and white area. And if you need to mix more, it was just the pink and the white. And maybe a touch of our background tone. And we're gonna paint our highlights in. So the small areas where it goes almost to white, we're gonna use the same color that we put on our light cactuses. And you can always just use white or use, but I use the same tone that we put on our light areas of the cactus. And I'm painting in the very tip tops of these petals where they can curve towards the sun. And so take your time at this part, just paint them in where they need to go. I went a little bit lighter than I did on the original example. So you'll see this, these flowers have a little bit more contrast and they get a little bit lighter. I like them both ways actually. So I'm painting in, these are fine details. Just these really curly tips of the petals to catch the sun. Go ahead and pause. And I'm going to dry the flower because I want it to be dry to do these last details. Go ahead and pause, dry it. Going to reach for our red. And now we're just gonna do some detail adjustment. Where does your painting need a little bit of cleanup or some detail? Gonna look at our reference. And so I'm working an area that I'd like to just be a little bit cleaner and darker with a detail brush, hitting some of the lines between the petals, but your painting might not need that. But mine did. So that's why I went in with that. I'm going in with just red now. Areas that just need a little bit of straight up red tone, kind of transitioning out of some of those darks. I'm putting those areas in right now. And this is kind of how you work some of these flowers and other parts of the painting, where you just kind of go back and forth and you will know when to walk away. Go ahead and pause, adjust your painting. I'm mixing up kind of a medium tone right here and adjusting a little more. What areas need more definition? What areas need to be cleaned up? Go ahead and pause, adjust some more if you need to. I'm gonna go and add this center to the cactus flower, which is sort of comprised of all of these little speckles. And I do that with the lightest tone I have, and then I choose a couple darker pinky tones too, just to give it some depth. So that's a little bit darker, just the pink and white. So I'm gonna recess some of the areas with that. Go ahead and pause, paint your center. And sign and display your painting. This one's one of my favorites. Thanks for doing Time for Art today.